So I just need to make one note to you guys on the lesson from yesterday. We wrote these truth tables in our notes. This is a screenshot of the book. Okay, the idea, the concept of negation, just showing you that if you see the squiggly in front of the letter, it means not or opposite in terms of truth value. So we're really not going to worry too much about this table. Conjunction and disjunction. These two tables, guys, are going to be given to you on the quiz and test. This is really where all of the truth table stuff begins. And maybe, not maybe, I didn't do a great job yesterday in the notes of emphasizing the importance of the first two columns, okay? These letters at the top, like we talked about yesterday, can be any combination of the three letters that the book uses for a statement, P, Q, or R. So this could be P and R, this could be Q and R, or this could be P and Q like it is here. The first two columns always stay the same. True, true, false, false, true, false, true, false. And then you get to this third column and determine, is it a conjunction, an and statement, or a disjunction, an or statement. And I've got a cool little trick to show you guys that I'm going to have you add to yesterday's notes here in a second. But I need y'all to understand, this is where our truth tables begin. So if I put that into terms of like a question, a homework problem, okay, number 23 said to complete the truth table. The reason it leaves the column under Q blank is because it's trying to get you to understand the concept true, true, false, false, and then true, false always stays the same. So right here, this part of the truth table is never going to change. Then you kind of work from there. The book gave you the not P column or the negation column, on this one particularly. You do need to add this third column if you get a negation in the conjunction, okay? If you get the squiggly line in front of the letters, you've got to add another column into your truth table. Now, I'm looking at not P and Q. So mentally, I can erase this column on the left, right? I can't show this on the screen, but I'm covering it up with my hand. Like I'm covering up column P with my hand. I'm just going to look at column Q and column not P because that's what shows up in my conjunction. So are there any questions so far on setting up this table before I move on? It's really important because this is going to be on the quiz and this is going to be on the test. Problems like this. Go ahead, Lee.
Do you think you could quickly do 25? Because
I'm going to in a second. Yep. So let's focus on this right now. The rule for and from yesterday. If it's a conjunction, if it's an up arrow, okay, it's only true if you see both statements true. Or, in other words, go ahead and write this down in your notes from yesterday. An and statement, y'all see that up arrow in the word false? An and statement is false if you see a false. So right here, I'm looking at Q and not P. I see a false, so it's false. I see a false, so it's false. I don't see a false, right? I see two trues. That's the only time an and statement will be true. And then I see a false, so it's false. Ask your questions now or forever hold your peace on number 23. This is, again, I'm going to say it for the third time. This is going to be on the quiz. This is going to be on the test. Go ahead, Huntley.
I'm just still really confused on how we know if it's true.
Okay. Let's get some reps. I'm going to do a couple more and tell me at the end of the next two examples if we're still confused. Okay, we're going to go to 25. So it says construct the truth table for each statement, P and R. In your notes, you should already have this done because we wrote our conjunction table, except we just said the letter was Q. if I just change it to P and R, this is done. So my table here, again, it's always going to start with these first two columns, okay? So if you're still kind of struggling with this right now, go ahead and follow along. Go ahead and write you a new table, which is most of us in here. So I should see most of us writing. Go ahead and start you a new table. These first two columns always stay the same. Always. So for the people asking, where does the true and false come? This is given to you on the test and on the quiz. Okay, you can treat it in your mind like a formula. True, true, false, false. True, false, true, false. That's given. That is the way you set up a truth table. So I didn't come up with that from some knowledge of the problem that I had. I hope I'm making sense here. This part of it is just stock standard. No matter what, I'm setting the table up with the first two columns just like this. What changes is the result, the truth value of the conjunction, right? So I have an up arrow in this problem. What type of statement is that? And or? And. So I've got my and table. And again, where am I getting these truth values from to answer Huntley's question? The only time an and statement is true is when both P and R, when both statements are true. So when both P and R are true, the conjunction is true. If I,
both of them are true.
right here,
So that's just every time.
P and R are true, so the statement is true. Okay, let's do the next line in a different color. P and R are false, so the statement is false. Anytime I see a false in an and statement, the conjunction is going to be false. Okay, the third option, P and R or P is false and R is true. P is false and R is true. Again, I see a false, so the conjunction is false. And then last one, we'll go rainbow. P is false and R is false. If I see a false, the conjunction is false.
So now on 23, so how did you get anything for P? Or like, if there were 3 letters, I'm confused on how that was.
The Q wasn't given to us because we can fill this table in always with the same, here, let me zoom in to where you can't, I can't do it. There we go. Like zoom in to where you can't see anything else. The left two columns always stay the same no matter what.
Okay.
True, true, false, false, true, false, true, false, from top down. So the way I got Q was just by knowing how to fill in a truth table.
Okay.
That's just a formula or a rule. The third column, not P, came from taking the opposite of my truth values in the first column.
Okay.
So the opposite of true is false, opposite of true is false, opposite of false is true, opposite of false is true. And then my fourth column came from looking at only the not P and the Q truth values.
Okay. Sounds good.
Let's do one more. 27. 29. 29. Okay, so again, go ahead and set up a table. This is for the majority of us in here need to be doing this, following along with me. Like I've already said, the first two columns are the same every time. So as I set these truth tables up, man, I'm struggling here. My first two columns are going to remain the same. So I've got P and R as my two statements here. P and R. And I'm just going to go like on autopilot. True, true. False, false. True, false, true, false. Again, to answer the question, where did you get that from? Just think of this as a formula. It's given to you every time, no matter what. Okay, now is where I need to figure out what else do I need to know. Okay, well, what is 29 asking me for? the conjunction of not P and R. Well, I need to add a third column for not P, because that's something that's not in my table yet. So now I'm going to add a third column, not P. And again, where am I getting these from? I'm just taking the opposite of whatever's in my P column. So now, not P just reverses the order. True turns into false, and false. True turns into false, and false turns into true. And then my fourth column, or my last column, is always the conjunction. So not P and R, whatever the problem is asking you to find. Okay, so I can now remove mentally, I can remove this column on the left. I'm only looking at not P and R. This is an and. This is an and statement. This is a conjunction. So I'm looking at, if I see a false, the conjunction is false. If I see a false, the conjunction is false. I don't see a false, so it's true. And if I see a false, the conjunction is false.
So how would you do it with an or statement?
Now, if it's an or statement, you go back to your or table, and it's the same exact setup, but the rule flips. If I see a true, then or statement, the disjunction, the or statement is true. If I see a true, it's true. If I see a true, it's true. If I don't see a true, then it's false. Okay? And here's
one of them has to be.
And here's kind of the if you want to call it the cheat code or the memorization strategy for that. For an and statement, if I see a false, it's false. For an or statement, if I see a true, it's true.
Even just one true?
Yep. That's the down arrow. That's supposed to be the down arrow to help you kind of remember that. And statement, if I see a false, it's false. Or statement, if I see a true, it's true. Okay. In regards to problem 35 on the homework, you guys don't, I'm not going to spend time worrying about that. I need to apologize to my first period. We spent like 15 minutes on it this morning. You're not going to see it on the quiz. You're not going to see it on the test. It was a challenge problem for you guys in terms of being in the advanced class, but we're not going to spend a bunch of class time working out number 35 today, okay? Any questions on setting up a truth table for a conjunction or a disjunction? We're going to move on if we're good.